Hello and welcome back to 360 Sports. Thank you so much for joining us here today for our Frenzy Show. I'm your host, Kylie Smith, and here alongside me are
Brennan, Kern,
Wyatt Beach,
and Jack Harrison.
We have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to jump right into it, talking about the upset of the year potentially. Starting off with headlines around the sports world. First, we have to talk about the potential upset of the year. That didn't come from March Madness, surprisingly, at this time. We're going to be talking about wrestling. Oklahoma State's Wyatt Hendrickson defeated Gable Steveson, the #1 wrestler in the world, for the NCAA title. What do you guys think about this crazy turn of events?
Well, personally, I think guys named Wyatt are just a different breed, and this was not a surprise to me as a fellow Wyatt.
Right.
But in all seriousness, if someone said they saw this coming, they were lying. I mean, Gable Steveson, Olympic gold medalist, has a ton of experience in this sport. And it was really cool to see an underdog win like this. You could really see in the way that Hendrickson wrestles how smart he is, as well as how hard he works, behind the scenes during practices in the gym, etc.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's a massive upset. And I know that you said that it was hard to predict, but with two amazing wrestlers like that, it's a matchup that can be a toss-up in some certain ways.
Mm-hmm. See, I agree with a lot of you said. Unfortunately for you Wyatts, I was very surprised by this. I mean, you're looking at a guy who this is his 5th year in college wrestling. He lost 2 games coming into this, and they were both in his freshman year. He went 3 straight seasons without losing. I think this is not only the biggest upset of the year, probably the biggest upset in college sports history, because a lot of these upsets you see, it's college athletes on college athletes. Like you mentioned, Olympic gold medals. This is a professional wrestler going against a college wrestler and getting beaten for a title. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Do we think it could happen again? If they were to wrestle again, what are the odds of that?
Well, college wrestling has been around for, however many years at this point, and people are talking about this like it's never going to happen again.
The most insane thing ever.
I'm not going to pretend like I'm, some wrestling expert, but it would have to be at least a pretty long time. I can't imagine this happening again next year or something like that. Clip that.
Such a cool environment too, seeing everyone everyone is surprised in the background here.
Yeah, the video, the first time I saw it on, I wasn't even watching because, I didn't even, but seeing it on Instagram, you can just see everybody get up as soon as he gets that ride on, as soon as he gets the ride.
And it was at the last second, too, right?
Really, yeah, no, he was down. He was down 2 or 3 points.
I think he was down 4-2 in the final seconds. That just adds to the upset that he was about 30 seconds away from losing.
Yeah,
and
super low scoring, too. Not a lot of points around during the match.
Yeah. Okay, well, speaking of upsets, there was a huge upset that happened last night, but for USC, as Juju Watkins unfortunately tore her ACL against USC's win against Mississippi State. How much do you guys think this is going to affect USC's chances as the tournament continues, as she is definitely their best player?
Well, my pick to win women's side of March Madness, it was USC because of Juju, but the team just... It's not that deep. It's very top-heavy. You have Juju, you have number 44, Kiki Ariafen, and other than that, it just feels like these players, they get their minutes, they get some points, but it doesn't feel like many people on this team know how to truly dominate a game.
See, I agree with that, but also Kiki Ariafen is probably one of the best players in the country, but 100%. She's sitting behind Juju Watkins now, going into this next game against Kansas State. They're going to be game planning against her because she is undoubtedly their number 2. And I think this just makes the road so much tougher because even if they beat Kansas State, then you got UConn, who you already beat by 2 in December, but that was with Juju Watkins. I mean, the road just gets so much tougher from here.
It does.
Yeah, I think against Kansas State on Saturday, I do actually have USC winning purely because Juju went down pretty early on in the game, and they were still able to handle business pretty handedly.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, I think they'll be good. I think as they get deeper into the tournament, when the games get closer and closer, I think that's when they'll start to really feel it.
Because after UConn, you get UCLA.
Yeah.
If you get that far,
you just get all the blue bloods at once.
Lost in the Big Ten championship. I mean, it was tough sledding anyway, even if you had Juju, and now without her, it's so much tougher.
Mm-hmm. What I will say is that we can't underestimate Kiki because her career high came in the playoffs last year. She was on Stanford. She got 41 points against Iowa State on 44% from 3.
Mm-hmm.
She
college
is dominant.
That's a lot. That's
100%.
And she had 36 points in the last game against Mississippi State, which is going to get overlooked because they blew them out. But she is very capable of scoring in bunches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, and Juju averages almost half their points half the time with 24.6 points. But now she won't be alongside Kiki. So will she still be able to get those points and get those balls up, I don't know. And I think that everyone was so highly anticipating the USC-UConn game. It was almost like a no-brainer that that was going to happen. But will they defeat the number 5 Kansas State at this point is something to think about.
My problem with that, I don't think they are going to pull it off because besides Juju, Kiki is the most well-known person on this team, and they're going to be doubling her like crazy. So they have to find their other players to get them shots up.
They're going to be exposed, I think, a lot in this upcoming game.
And you're also looking at a Kansas State team. They just upset Kentucky in overtime. They won a close game, which in March, if you're winning close games, that's obviously huge. When you're upsetting teams, it's huge. Getting both of them together, going into a game where they probably still won't be favored, if I had to guess. Yeah. It's going to be more motivation. I think Kansas State will win. I
agree. I think it's an extra confidence boost knowing that she's not going to be there. But they can't lose sight of that either. Okay, so we're going to get into our post-game review. From March Madness games to F1 events, all the way to hockey playoffs on the horizon. There's a bunch of stuff going on in sports right now. I want you guys to pick a sports game or match that happened recently and give us your thoughts on what went down. I think you're starting out.
Yes, I am starting off. So I'm going to be talking about an NBA game that really, if you look at it, didn't have a whole lot of implications. It was Cavs versus Jazz on Sunday. I'm not going to be looking at the Cavs, who won that game by 20. I'm going to be looking at the Jazz, specifically Walker Kessler, who went 1 for 12 and 1 for 8 from 3 in that game, which it might not sound like it, but that is an amazing thing for the Utah Jazz. Recently, in these last couple games, he's been taking so many threes. He never shoots threes, but now the coach is giving him the green light to practice them in-game, which I think is setting a precedent for what the new tanking style in the NBA is going to be. Usually you see teams that want to lose, they play their young guys a lot, or they rest players so that they do lose on purpose. But they're sending Walker Kessler out there and they're saying, hey, we just want you to practice shooting threes, which he's a 7-footer. He's one of the best interior defenders, one of the best shot blockers in the game. If he can add a 3-ball to his game, that's great. But if it doesn't work right now, then you're losing games and your lottery odds get a lot better. So I think this is going to be kind of what we see from NBA teams that are trying to lose in the future, is getting guys out there to work on specific skills to get better at that in-game. And even if it doesn't work, you're losing games for a better pick. It's a very niche game, but it's just something to look into. You might see that in the future now with a lot of teams.
Yeah, tanking has always been, like, people say it's been a problem in the NBA. I think it'd always be a problem. Even if you try to regulate it, I think teams are going to want. Our teams will always recognize when they're going to be in a bad spot. So you might as well just kind of throw them out there and see what the guys on your roster
It's going to be bad for fans all the time, so you might as well, if you're a team, get something good out of it, which is if Walker Kessler at 7 feet tall can be one of the best interior defenders and a long-range shooter, that's going to be huge for them moving forward in this rebuild process.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to be talking about the Chinese Grand Prix that happened very early for us Americans on Sunday morning. Oscar Piastri, Oscar Piastri took it home. I think it is his 3rd victory in his very young F1 career. Only his 2nd full-time season, I think, or 3rd. I can't remember.
She knows.
But, very dominant performance, very veteran drive from a very young star. Obviously, another story from this is the 2 Ferraris tragically getting disqualified after an already bad race by just a few, milligrams being underweight. Not how Lewis Hamilton wanted to start his Ferrari career. One drive I wanted to talk about that went really under the radar was Ollie Behrman. He should have won Driver of the Day for this race. He powered through, from the back of the pack through the midfield into the points, a double points finish for Haas. That is huge for a team like them. And exciting race. It sets the tone for what the rest of the year is going to look like, but we got a long way to go.
I can't say I'm too well versed in the Chinese Ferrari.
I was going to say, I would really love to comment, but I'm going to trust you on everything that you said.
What happened, Lewis Hamilton moved to Ferrari, think like Tom Brady to the Cowboys type move. And he got onto the front row for the start of the race, and then it just from all uphill from there. Bad race for both cars, and to add insult to injury, they were both taken out and disqualified for being under weight.
Yeah. I appreciate the translation. Yeah. I get it now. Okay.
So my game that I had was McNeese and Clemson. And what I will say about this is that I understand. McNeese went on a fantastic run in the first half, and when it was 40-16, it was a 24-point game. It felt like trash minutes the rest of the way through. But then after that, Clemson outscored them 51-19. They ended the game on an 8-2 run. There were threes after threes after threes that you saw, and it just felt like they were trying to get back into it, but they just came back into it too late. And they were personally my pick to come out of the Midwest. I know it's a little bit of a shocker, but it just felt like all year with these Tigers that they have just been able to power through every single opponent that they've had. And if not, they just make it really tough. And that's what I saw to them, and it just didn't happen.
It really is a shame. They might have played one of the best halves of any team in the tournament in that second half, but they played such a poor first half that it didn't end up mattering.
This was one of those bracket buster games.
Absolutely.
I definitely had Clemson winning. Just murdered my chances from the get-go.
I got that, but I also think it's part of, we can't not talk about him, Amir Ora Khan. Yeah, he was like the face of that team. He's not even a player. He's a manager for the team, student manager. And it just felt like McNeese had the upper hand in every statistic.
Mm-hmm. Part of the magic of March.
It is.
There you go.
Okay. For my game, I'm going to be talking about how Colorado State just got cut short of making it to the Sweet 16 against Maryland. Colorado honestly was dictating most of the first half in this game and doubling their points, Maryland's points, throughout the whole first part of the game. And then the second half comes around, Maryland kind of turns it up a beat, is kind of getting back on their feet, finding Derek Queenmore, who led them with 17 points. I believe, getting him the ball, he's scoring, and the whole momentum kind of changes, and they come back. It's kind of going back and forth throughout the game, and at the very end, we have a three from Colorado State, which would take the lead by 1, and then at the last 2 seconds, Maryland comes back and scores a layup, which brings them back to the Sweet 16. So it's a little bit interesting, a little bit upsetting. I think it would have been cool to see Colorado State come back and make that, but still a awesome game to watch.
I absolutely agree. It's probably one of, if not the best games of the tournament. And when it comes down, I like in March, if it comes down to a buzzer beater, I like to see it being 2 tough shots, not some team getting something easy. Colorado State, they made a great play.
Yep.
Maryland just made a better and one more play.
Yeah.
And the 3 he made was ridiculous. I really thought that kind of would have been the end of it, and they powered through at the last second. Okay, so now we have some pressing questions to ask and answer. We're going to ask 3 questions on the board regarding different sports, and I want you guys to give your answers and argue how your opinion is correct.
Sounds great.
The first question is, what sport has the best postseason or road to championship in general?
I'm going to go with a little bit of a complicated answer here. I think the best road to a championship, you have to go March Madness because it's 6 games, all 2 of them, 2, Sweet 16, and it just feels like it kind of feels like it's the better, it's a more magical type of run.
Yep.
But I think the best postseason has to go to the NHL because every single one of those teams, it rarely ever feels like it's an out-of-reach series for a team, and the atmospheres inside of those arenas are second to none.
Yeah, I would say March Madness has an incredible road to a title because, I tend to compare and contrast, college ball to pro ball, and it's like the road to the finals is a lot different, right? March Madness is, full of teams that you don't even know. It's single elimination. Just feels like there's a much more magical process going in. It feels like such an achievement just to get deep in the tournament. Whereas the finals, it seems very, clear cut. You feel like you're gonna know who's gonna win in a 7-game series most of the time. So. Yeah, I think March Madness takes the cake for me.
I feel like it's almost like a clean slate, I guess, going into March Madness because there are so many underdog teams. And a lot of the times you do get that Cinderella story, at least for a little bit, which you don't see as much in professional basketball, I feel like. So I think it's cool how it's one game, even playing field. Anyone can kind of take that moment or leave it. I
also have the NCAA tournament just for the fact that these Cinderella teams that you're seeing, they're coming off of, in a lot of cases, conference tournament wins, because that's how you have to get into the tournament for a lot of these teams. And if they go on runs, that's like 7 or 8 games in a span of 2 weeks, really. And if they are continuing to win, like, the guys are gassed. They're going off of pure motivation and drive. That is, like, all they have left in the tank. And to see these teams, like, I think of UConn in, I believe, 2014, winning as a 7 seed, beating Kentucky. They had to come off of a Big East Conference tournament win. So they ended up winning about, I want to say, 11 or so games in the span of, like, 3 weeks. And you rarely see that in the pros, let alone from college athletes.
Yeah. I will also say I love the MLB. I love the MLB playoff process, kind of the adrenaline as the games get longer. There's obviously longer series. And I don't know, it's just such an anticipation. You never know how it's going to go. I think it's the same kind of thing. Like, it could go either way half the time. And it's never usually like, at least towards the end, like 3 games like win. It's back and forth. And I think that adds to the excitement of it all.
I think, the MLB postseason, it relies a lot on clutch moments because a lot of games go down
and you
the
see
wire.
it so much in the postseason for them.
One thing I love about the MLB playoffs is that, like, it has a month tied to it, October, especially like March Madness, is because when we get to the month of March, we're like, okay, we got to get locked in college ball. We got to see who's going to win the conference tournaments. And I feel like it's like that in October with baseball. It's just 1 month of pure baseball that you're going to watch because it's just awesome.
Yeah.
It means something after like a really long regular season where
such a long season.
Where like so many games are like we'll get them next time. It's the games that like finally matter. Yeah. That really gets your heart into it.
Certainly. Okay. For the second question, we have who would do better, the NBA in the NFL or the NFL in the NBA?
I think NBA players would given this scenario, thrive in the NFL. I think they're all around just clear-cut better athletes. They're conditioned in like all around, basic fundamentals in a better way. I feel like the NFL is a lot more position-based. It doesn't really necessarily make the NFL, a worse quality sport. I just think a basketball athlete is a lot more well-rounded than a football athlete, and I think that would help in like skill positions in football.
I would say the same thing too.
You guys all agree?
I would absolutely agree.
I'm curious to hear what you think.
I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate because I'm trying to imagine. I mean, even the point guards in the NBA, they're all like 6'4"? I'm trying to imagine a 6'4" man being a running back like Saquon Barkley and playing that. Like, how is that working?
I think of him more as a skill position like a receiver or a tight end. I have it written down. Donovan Mitchell and Mike Williams. Mike Williams is a premier jump ball receiver. They are the same height. A.J. Brown and Kyle Lowry are the same height. Put Giannis at tight end, have him run an end zone fade against any corner in the league. You could throw the ball to the top of the stadium and he's going to come down with it because he's huge and he's equally as athletic.
Yeah.
When we're talking about players that would succeed from the NFL to the NBA, I got to go with Justin Jefferson because you look at his athletics, you look at the way he jumps for the balls, his routes that he runs, and I feel like that explosiveness, it would translate really well into the NBA.
The one concern I feel like is the ball handling and the shooting, just because like obviously shooting is a huge part of the NBA today. Yes, they are freak athletes, but you don't really have just like lob guys or pure athletes in the league anymore. You got to be able to shoot, and if you want to get by guys, you got to be able to have some kind of handle.
I feel like he would be a type of guy to be like a Giannis, drive to the paint, because while he has such explosiveness, he tends to move really well. And he tends to go on like his off foot, sometimes it's his right foot, sometimes it's his left. And when you watch him, it kind of feels like you don't know what's coming next unless he's in the air.
I feel like another part of it is the weight, too, because NBA players are pound for pound a lot heavier than NFL players. Obviously, football players are extremely tough with the hits they're taking, but I'm trying to imagine Justin Jefferson driving in the lane and getting like a hip check from a big in the NBA. I don't know how it would work out, but
I'm seeing it, and I think it would be entertaining.
I'll give you this. In research for this, I did watch the Myles Garrett film from the Celebrity All-Star, and he did go off. But I still think NBA and the NFL would be better.
Yeah, I can understand it, but I'm just going to stand my ground. I'm going to just, avoid. Okay, so for our last question, we are going to be talking about who is the GOAT of all GOATs across sports.
Can we just say Gretzky? And
yes, I wanted to start off with that.
I was going to say I have Gretzky, or I also have Michael Phelps, because I'm looking at guys I'm trying to look at guys that are unanimous GOATs in their sport. I don't feel like you can put a Michael or a LeBron just because there is still some discourse there.
Incredible athletes.
Baseball, there's like 5 guys that you can make a GOAT case for. Football, most people say Tom Brady, but that's also a very positional-based game. I'm trying to look at guys that are unanimously by far the best in their sport.
I put Lionel Messi.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah, absolutely.
But he feels like he's more like disputed in soccer.
I feel like it's Messi or Ronaldo
yeah,
kind
but
of conversation.
I can't even have this conversation because Messi is so much better than Ronaldo.
I agree that he is the best soccer
agree.
player ever.
I agree, but I think you're talking about undisputed GOAT of GOATs.
Yeah. Okay.
Who compares to Gretzky? Like you have a player like Ovechkin who's on his way to breaking Gretzky's goal record, but then you look at Gretzky, goals isn't even his thing.
Yeah,
he's an assist guy.
He still has the points record if you take away his goals. That's the one, right?
Yeah, I feel like we're obviously watching this race with Ovechkin, which is huge for hockey. It's one of the biggest stories, one of the biggest milestones ever. You're taking out Gretzky's assists. You're matching him in goals.
He still's got
like you
800
said, goals is
assists
not
to
his
go.
thing. The assists is what makes him, the whole points in total is what makes him the GOAT.
Speaking of points, Gretzky, what I will say, his top career in points in 1 year is 215. In hockey, if you know hockey, that's impossible to break. You break 100
We'll never
points.
see that again.
You break 100 points and it's like an all-time season.
Yeah.
You can't even get close to that.
It's probably my fault because I'm not as familiar with hockey, so maybe I'll take that. But I guess how I interpreted it almost was like, once again, kind of the NBA, NFL thing, how a person would perform in all of those kind of sports.
Interesting.
So I'm thinking Messi's speed and kind of athleticism in the position that he plays as a center midfielder could be very diverse. You could translate that to a football field for sure. He runs the same miles per hour as Saquon Barkley, so maybe he would have to be a little bit stronger,
have to be
put
a
on
running
some
back.
weight.
How tall is Messi?
He's like 5'6", 7".
Okay, so we're looking at a small.
He wouldn't play
back.
basketball.
I'm just saying, I'm putting it in that type of way. That's where I see
I do
that.
agree. The athleticism is absolutely there.
He also has like the same type of vision as Gretzky. Like I think he would succeed well in hockey.
Yeah.
If he could skate.
Put him on skates. Put Messi on skates. But you have Michael Phelps, I can see that too. Except that's such a particular sport also. It's just speed.
I looked at it more as like, where are you stacking up with the other people in your sport?
In your
and
sport.
It is, Phelps is on a completely different planet
Different
compared to
level.
everybody
It
else.
takes a lot of conditioning too, and conditioning is something that translates across all sports. You need to be able to go.
He's also a fairly tall guy. I mean, he can
yes.
definitely play based on the height.
Based on the height.
He could be on the field
Yes.
in these other sports, yes.
Yeah, so then at that point, I guess I would also be Serena Williams in tennis, and then Simone Biles in gymnastics. I feel like are pretty
Dominance for
undisputed.
sure would
Yeah.
play.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
consider that as the undisputed GOAT in what they do.
Now I'm understanding. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to playoff races tightening up. For the last segment, we're going to break down some of the playoff races coming up in sports. And first, we have hockey with some close wild card races going on. Who do you guys think will get these wild card spots and win it all?
One sleeper that I have, they're on the outside looking in right now, but just barely, is the Vancouver Canucks in the Western Conference. They're putting together good games. It's just not consistent. They're beating good teams, but at the same time, like the next game, they'll lose to like the Flames or something like that. Games that they're in the race for the wild card spot for that they need to prove that they can, beat. If nothing else but morality. But, Quinn Hughes is a very talented defenseman, and he's a good leader for them. And I think they'll, by the time the playoffs start, be in at least that second wild card spot.
What I don't like about the Canucks is that they have like the 9th hardest strength of schedule left. It's going to be tough for them.
But at the same time, I know that they can win these games too.
Oh yeah,
they will not win all of them, but they will. But they will. If they can find the consistency to beat the teams that they should beat and compete with the teams even punching above their weight, I think that they'll easily get into at least that second wild card spot.
Yeah. I'm not really looking at the wild card race right now. I'm looking at the Colorado Avalanche. They are playing their best hockey right now. They are going to be coming into this tournament red hot. Their biggest weakness coming into this kind of stretch was their goaltending, but it's gotten a lot better. Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, they're saving 7.5 goals above average. I mean, it has become a strength of their team. And now if you can ride into the postseason, obviously even if you don't watch hockey, you can imagine that goaltending is very important, not allowing the other team to
Yes,
score.
yes.
So
Yeah.
going into the playoffs on
As a Flyers fan, I can tell you it's very important.
going
It's
into the playoffs
incredibly
on a hot
important.
streak like that, I mean, it's going to be tough to stop.
Yeah.
Especially with the Avalanche, is that right now they're matched up against the Stars, who they've done fairly well with over the past couple of years, especially in playoff series. And I feel like Colorado, it's a great pick.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And that's who you think's going to win it all.
Yep, that's my pick.
Ooh.
You can book it now. We got 10 to 12 games left until the postseason. You can book it now. Colorado Avalanche, they're hoisting the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Okay, are you guys in agreement?
I don't know about the ads hoisting it. I don't know.
You know, it's like we were just talking about this. Stanley Cup playoffs is another one of those.
It is absolutely
It's a gauntlet.
It's one of those ones where any team
It's
that
a
gets in, they have a more of a shot than
Yeah.
other teams.
But as of right now, yes, the
Yes.
Avalanche are looking like the team right now.
They are the team to beat.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the NBA playoff race, the West is in an absolute dogfight, and the Cavaliers and Celtics are still in a close race for best team in the East. What teams are you scared of come playoff time, and any sleeper squads that you want to mention?
Well, obviously this Thunder team has really, really hit their stride here. They're firmly at first place in the Western Conference. And this is what we were talking about, a season ago, 2 seasons ago. These guys are super young, super talented, and they're only going to get better. And we are hitting that threshold right now.
Yeah, the Thunder, they've actually won the West already.
Yeah.
They're the first seed. I love this Thunder team, but it feels like what's going to make or break them is experience.
That's
They
what I
don't
was
have
saying.
that much of.
Yeah, if they ever, that's another team. My sleeper team was, it's weird to say that this is a sleeper team, but the Warriors, because they're led by Stephen Curry, who is, Mr. Playoffs. He's been there, I can't even remember how many times. But yeah, their inexperience will be their detriment, and I think a team like the Warriors, their experience will be their advantage.
Going on to your point about the Thunder and unique experience, my sleeper team is the Nuggets. Obviously, a team that very recently won a championship, but if the playoffs were to hold right now, they would get Golden State in the first round, and I think they match up very well against them. If all the other results hold, they'd probably play Houston, who is a very unexperienced team. I don't want to say easy road to the conference finals, but in this Western Conference, that's about as good as you can get it.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you're going to have a combination of OKC, Memphis, and LA. Only one of those teams can make it, so they're probably all going to beat up on each other. So you're going to get kind of a battered down version of whatever team in the conference finals after going through the road that you did.
So do we have the Cavs over the Celtics, you think?
No. We can't
No
take
comment.
the Cavs or the Celtics.
If they played a 7-game series right now, I'm taking Boston, and especially because the
I
Cavs
agree.
just went on a little bit of a skid. They're only 4 games above Boston in the conference. If they don't have home court advantage in that series, then there is 0% chance they win. Right now, they have a chance just because they would be playing the majority of their games in Cleveland. But if you let Boston play games 1 and 2 on their home floor, it's a wrap.
They're a very, very well-built team, and you can watch any one of their games.
And
you can
especially
see-
I feel like the East is a lot more diluted. They should
Yes.
absolutely be the favorites just because, they won the championship last year. They
It's
should absolutely be the
two
favorites.
very different conferences
Absolutely.
right now. 2 very different conferences.
I have to ask a question. Where would we place Boston if we put them in the West?
That's a good question.
I think they're the best team in the league. I think they're better than the Thunder.
I don't know.
Over OKC, even after that game that they had a couple weeks ago?
yeah,
I'm still taking
OKC.
Boston. If they played, they're my pick to win the championship. If they played a 7-game series in the finals right now, OKC would have the home court advantage. I still think they're a year away. And I might have said that last year. I probably would have said they were 1 or 2 years away. But I still think there's just so many good teams in the West. And then the Celtics are obviously championship hardened after last year. I think they got more experience. I think they're maybe a little bit more talented. I mean, both teams are extremely deep, so it's
Yeah.
really tough to evaluate it that way. But I'd still take them over the Thunder.
Yeah, I can see that. I love that pick, though.
And again, Thunder, it's hard not to root for them just because of all
Yeah.
the young talent they have. So it'll be heartbreaking when they lose to the Celtics in the final.
Don't say that.
Okay, so clearly there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in sports today and in general. So make sure to tune in for our show tomorrow. I believe it's an NBA show, and we will see you then. Thank you.